Art Laffer, former Reagan Economic Advisor, and Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient, and Steve Moore, the Committee to Unleash Prosperity Hotlines and FreedomWorks, and Vice President of everything that's good in the world. Gentlemen, Happy New Year, first of all. It's great to see both of you. You probably heard at least part of my riff. You guys are problem solvers, too. I got a new one, though. Art Laffer, got to start with you. You are our supply-side guru. You are our guru for everything, for heaven's sakes. But let me start with this. There's a new poll out by TIPS, Technometrica. They're fabulous pollsters. Investors Business Daily, or what was left of it. So listen to this. Public says no to tax increases. And I raise this, Art, because in killing the bill, we've focused, importantly, on stopping the massive spending and the inflationary impacts and the entitlement state and no workfare and so forth, all the good Joe Manchin stuff. But look at this. Americans don't want higher taxes, and it's broad-based. 81% of Republicans, 65% of independents, even 44% of Democrats, even 39% of liberals are not in favor of higher taxes to pay for more government spending. Now, that's a lot, Art Laffer. What do you make of that? Why do you think that is so?
Well, I'm just shocked, Larry, that it's as bad for that. I thought it'd be 95% would be against taxes. I'm shocked. But the reason I think it isn't ruffled, the reason I think they didn't get the 95% is they talked about taxes, not tax rates. Tax rates are the killers. And tax rates are what affects people's behavior on the margin. And if you tax people who work and pay people who don't work, you're going to get a lot of people not working. They understand that clearly and simply and straightforwardly. And I'd be willing to bet you anything if these people did their polls correctly with rates, we'd won by much more than we did.
All right, I'm going to talk to Rag Mayer about this and try to get him to put in revenues and rates. The Laffer curve is supreme. But Steve Moore, I think, it's an economic point. It's also a political point, and I wanted to raise it. First of all, it's a great poll. They do great work at Technometrica. But, Steve, not enough attention has been paid to the massive tax increases endemic to this crazy bill.
Well, it's not only the tax increases that people oppose, Larry. Another central element of this killer bill, and it is, I haven't been in the game as long as you and Arthur have, but I've been in it for over 3 decades, and this is the worst bill that I've seen. And I count something like 25 new welfare payment programs, and not one of them, Larry, requires people to work or be in training or in school or getting the skills that they need so they can work. It's just free money for people, and Americans don't want that. And so I've been kind of scratching my head over this Christmas and New Year's break and trying to think what's going on with the liberal Democrats, because when we all first came to Washington, there were a lot of Democrats who believed in the supply side idea. I look back, the Reagan tax cuts that you guys worked on passed with more than 80 votes in the Senate. And then the reform bill was 97-3 in the Senate back in 1986. My point is, Democrats did believe in incentives and economics. You and Arthur taught me this. Economics is just about incentives. And they don't seem to think incentives matter. If we let illegal immigrants come in, we're going to get more illegal. I'm in favor of immigration, but they got to come in through the legal channels. And I think that's why Americans have rebelled against this bill. And Larry, every new poll shows that the more Americans learn what's in the Build Back Better bill, the less they like it.
Well, Arthur, of course, no one's been around as long as Art has. There's no question about that. So Art will go all the way back to the John F. Kennedy tax cuts, where he lowered tax rates and tax revenues went up. But Art, it's an interesting question. Now, we've fought hard. We've held back this bill. We killed the bill in 2021. We're going to have to continue to work to kill the bill completely in 2022. But Art, Americans, I think, the backbone of the country, the working folks of the country, they don't want to penalize success. They don't want to penalize entrepreneurship, for example. And I think that's a big dividing line. In other words, Democrats have not only jumped ship on taxes, now they want to raise taxes left and right, although these polls show the rank and file don't agree with the party leaders. But they really want to penalize success. And I don't think that's how most people work. I don't care how much money you make or don't make.
Yeah, that's so true. And, you know, the one that gets me the most of all, and I don't remember how many it is, but $80 billion to expand the IRS, to go into your tax returns and to get all that. And that's one of the biggest revenue raisers they've got in this bill, at least so they say, which is just terrifying. I mean, who wants to be invaded by government people to go through all your financial accounts and all that? I mean, tax rates are terrible. Raising tax rates. We should have a low-rate, broad-based, flat tax, collect enough revenues to do the programs and be done with it. That's what the tax code should look like. But to get all these IRS agents, it's like hiring 57 dentists to make sure that you're in pain every single day of the week.
Dentists?
I mean, this is just a terrible system.
I've talked to my dentist about that. Steve Moore.
Yeah, I know.
I know. I know. Oh, yes, root canal without Novocaine. That's what we used to call it.
Root canal. That's what Jack Kemp's phrase was.
That
Remember
was Jack Kemp's phrase.
Jack called it root canal.
And Steve Moore.
And he was right.
You can't have capitalism without capital. And the trouble with Democrats is they love employment. They just don't like employers who hire folks. But, Steve, what are the prospects right now? From your vantage point, you've been quarterbacking the Save America Coalition. We had great success last year. How do you read this thing? Give us some political, economic analysis from your part.
I do worry, Larry, a little bit about a deal that could be made between the two Joes, Joe Manchin and Joe Biden. I hope I'm wrong about this. I hope that Joe Manchin is a hard no on this bill. I mean, the polls show in West Virginia, his home state, 2/3 of the voters are against this bill. So he should, and he's basically made the point that the bill is terrible for West Virginia and it's terrible for the United States of America, all 50 states. But, you know, look, he's a politician. You know Joe Manchin better than I do. But I do worry about, look, let me put it very simply. I don't see anything in this bill, nothing in this bill that's good for America, that's going to increase incentives for people to work more, invest more, to bring jobs back to the United States. In fact, I think it'll export jobs out of the United States. Great piece in the Wall Street Journal the other day saying, look, the biggest winner of this bill to pass would be China and Russia and our adversaries that are probably cheering for Build Back Better. I mean, President Xi is probably the biggest cheerleader for this bill because he understands it's going to export jobs out of the United States to other countries.
All right, I want to give you the last word, New Year's last word. There'll be a million last words in the next year. But it just seems to me this little Biden nonsensical experiment with socialism is completely doomed to fail in America. Your last thought.
Yeah, it is doomed by doing all these transfer payments. You've convinced people not to work. They don't like their jobs. They don't have to work now because of all the transfers. The supply of goods and services has been withdrawn, which means lower growth in the long run for the U.S., but also it means a withdrawal of domestic production and an increase in domestic demand, which leads to higher inflation. How this will survive higher inflation and lower participation rates is beyond me, and I think that's where the political rubber hits the road and we win in November.
And I think they've cut, look, all right, Americans don't want Washington to run their lives. I mean, they don't.
No, they don't.
That was, Trump said that. Reagan said the same thing 40 years ago. Steve Moore. I mean, they don't want big government socialism to run every darn thing.
Biden said it very well the other day when he said there's no federal solution. Well, there's no federal solution to any of these problems. Let's leave it to good governors like Ron DeSantis and others who are solving the problems of America. I was in Florida last week. Florida's doing just fine without Joe Biden's help.
They call it Free Florida. Is that what they call it now? Free Florida? It's fantastic. It's like a liberated Soviet state. Free Florida. We're going there. From New York, which is socialism, to Free Florida. I love it. Anyway, gentlemen, Art Laffer.
Yeah, don't cure the sick. Yes, cure the sick. Don't infect the healthy.
Well, they won't let. Okay, you have to become a red stater if you move to Florida. Art Laffer, thank you. Steve Moore, thanks very much. Coming up, folks.